This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. Call this episode Reset Part 2. Not the title of the episode, but it's where I am, my thinking. Just back to America for a month and back to Asia after that month in America. I had a chance to walk two college campuses, Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., and the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia. Two very classic universities. If you have a degree from those universities, most people will respect you. They will say, wow, you're smart, or great job. I will too, to some extent. But I can't help but walk those college campuses, observe kids today, and think about what are the choices and options they face as they get out of school. Those universities cost a boatload of money. Probably, when it's all taken into account, $50,000 or $60,000 US dollars per year. So unless the parents pay for it, the cost of a house in some neighborhoods in America. But if the parents don't pay for it, it's debt. Debt that you cannot escape. Then if you happen to be one of those smart kids, you then get the important job when you leave school to help pay for the debt and to help pay for perhaps the house you buy in your 20s or 30s, which is now priced in levels that your parents and grandparents never had to pay. It's an interesting system, especially the job part. Because most of the kids, regardless of how smart they are, don't go to the University of Virginia and don't go to Georgetown to become entrepreneurs. They don't go there to find freedom. They go there to become slaves to the system. Because when they get out, and many kids from both of those universities will get decent jobs, not all, but many, you can buy things and you can start to pretend. Now, again, you might not be buying the house. You might be stuck with the student loans, but you can make it look like you have arrived. But again, that job equals slavery. I mean, do you really think you go to a big, prime, number one superstar university and learn how to take care of yourself? No, you go there to become a cog in the wheel, to be just another one, to be no one. That's the goal. Now, the students don't think that's the goal. The parents don't think that's the goal. But that's the goal, ladies and gentlemen. And then when they get older, they just go along with whatever the system says. If the system says, we need to do this, take this vaccine, or if the system says we need to do this, fight this war, you just go along with the system because you've bought in. And if you criticize any aspect of the system, since your daily bread, since your money comes from the system, you're fucked, my friend, with a capital F. Bend over and say, yes, sir, can I have another? Because you have lost and maybe never knew you weren't headed towards freedom. There is no freedom for you. But it looks so great. You get the great grades. You get to UVA. You get to the University of Virginia. You get to Georgetown. You are there. You have made it. You know you will be a star. But where is the toughness? That's the question. Now, to walk around UVA and see the Multicultural Student Center, does that speak to toughness? That we have to reward 18 to 22-year-olds with a room designated for them because of their particular skin color? Are you serious? This is childlike. This is amusement park-like. This is cosplay. It's dress up. It's silliness. It's not toughness. I did not have a chance to check out that type of thing at Georgetown, but I know it exists there too. As a side note, I did have a chance to walk into Healy Hall. And if you've ever been to Washington, D.C., and you look up from many vantage points, you'll see this old Gothic-looking structure up on a hill. That is Healy Hall at Georgetown University, an amazing building that pretty much anybody can walk into and go stroll around and check out, which we did. It had been years since I had been in there. We filmed there for my film Broke, The New American Dream, but it had been so many years, I had forgot the details. And as another side tangent, The Exorcist was filmed inside Healy Hall. And just down the street, literally 2 blocks away, The Exorcist house and The Exorcist stairs. Side tangent over, back to the most important point of my message today, the toughness. But before I get to the toughness, before I describe it, let me give a little hint about something. And it comes from Jerry Seinfeld. And Seinfeld basically says, don't just sit at your house. Get to the office to do something. Now, he's a creative guy. He's a writer. But basically, he means if you are creating like that, you need an environment. You need environmental priming. Our brain learns to associate certain locations with certain behaviors and certain kinds of thinking. What that really means to me is the digging, the exploring, the going out for an adventure. Now, of course, Seinfeld was just making a little story about how to be more creative, but it's the same headspace. It also connects to what I was talking about with the kids, the toughness. Multicultural centers are not tough. Multicultural centers are for vapid losers. And I'm not talking about white, black, Asian, Hispanic. I don't give a shit. Whatever center for whatever skin color is ridiculous in the modern age. For weak minds, not tough. But if I stay at Seinfeld's idea of this environmental priming, which I will say, going out on an adventure, well, how do you do that? I'm a little bit different. I just went. I just jumped. I didn't really care. Or I cared, but when I was faced with, if I made a small jump, which it always starts with small jumps, but I made a small jump first. So when you are faced with the bigger jump choice, it's like, okay, here's A, here's B, which is better? You just do it. Because you're no longer worrying about all the bullshit that you've been forced to digest your entire life. You're no longer worried about whether or not the job will hire you. And when the job hires you, you have to zip your mouth and shut up and be a good little boy or a good little slave. But there's a reason for this. There's a reason for why the generations are changing. There's a reason why you might listen to someone like me, a Gen X guy who sounds a little tougher. This sounds a little more like piss and vinegar. Whereas if you listen to some youthful people, they don't have that same tone. They're more measured. They're more circumspect. They're more scared. So why might that be? What is happening in the advent of technology that could possibly cause young people to be changing? To have this desire for, give me the multicultural center so I feel safe and I feel secure. I'm staring at an article, Decline in Independent Activity as a Cause of Decline in Children's Mental Well-Being. Summary and Evidence. One author, Peter Gray, who's appeared on this podcast. The article states, it's no secret that rates of anxiety and depression among school-aged children and teens in the U.S. are at all-time highs. It's no secret. We all know this. They go on to say that their thesis is that a primary cause of this rise in mental disorders is a decline over the decades in opportunities for children and teens to play, roam, and engage in activities independent of direct oversight and control by adults. Such independent activities may promote mental well-being through both immediate effects as a direct source of satisfaction and long-term effects by building mental characteristics that provide a foundation for dealing effectively with the stresses of life, end quote. Basically, it is the rise of Generation Pussy, Generation Weak. That doesn't mean that I'm all that. It doesn't mean that everybody in my generation is all that. It doesn't mean that every young kid today is all that. But on the margins, if we look at the bell curve, if we look at the center distribution, clearly more and more kids are being conditioned. They're being pushed into some system. The parents are doing it. Now, who has primed the parents? Well, the parents are afraid. Ever since 9/11, Americans have been afraid, scared of their shadow, scared shitless. Go to the airport, it's a fucking traumatic experience. You are made to feel like you're a peasant. You're made to feel like you're a terrorist when you show up at the airport because everything bad's going to happen. Now, if you take that messaging from on high, you give it to parents, then you add in something like the COVID times, and fear is never ending. So the parents are afraid. Go check out the numbers. Kids don't get their driver's license anymore at 16 in America. Kids don't want to have sex anymore in America. Young kids. Now, I'm not saying that it's a smart thing for the teenagers of America or the teenagers of the world to run around and have sex indiscriminately and produce kids out of wedlock. I'm not saying that's a smart thing. But it's an interesting thing that young men, perhaps, are no longer willing to take that risk. They don't want to try. Of course, it takes two to tango. Women have to play ball as well. But no driver's license, no sex, no flying, no experiences. They go to high school in their hometown. Then maybe they go to some university. That's cloistered. And then when they get out, unless they find a way to toughen up and get outside of the damn envelope, get outside of the circle, they're stuck. You can almost predict the life trajectory of most American kids, and this applies around the world with slight deviations, but you can almost predict their directions if they don't find a chance to get outside the system. Because what are their choices? They are in the fear world, afraid of the next war the media tells you about, afraid of the next disease the media tells you about. How do you get tough? Now, a lot of young men these days, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's awesome. It's a little bit past me. I don't want to get a damn neck injury. But let me frame it this way too. There are a ton of men in their hometowns that have become fantastic in the gym. They can fight. But are they tough? What happens if you drop them, let's say some typical American guy? What happens if you drop them in some foreign city? And I'm not talking about Europe. Let's say somewhere in Asia, South America. Can they handle it? Could they live there? Could they make it happen? Would they stress out? Would they freak out? Are they tough? Are they really tough mentally? We can all get tough physically. I mean, I work at getting tough physically all the time. It's an important part of the process. And I'm not talking shit about the young men out there that are toughening themselves up, because that's the first step. You sure as hell don't want to be a weak man. But are you tough? Can you handle it? Are you robust? The data says the young people are not. The young people have been set up by their parents. Their parents have been set up by the media and government. So where the hell does it end? Well, right now, we have 2 wars going on around the world. And most typical Americans are cheerleading these wars. And I'm not going to get too controversial about this, but here's a good way to judge Americans when it comes to their belief in war. Do they want their kids to be drafted? I can promise you right now that if you told Americans right now, we are instituting a draft to go fight wars in Europe and in the Middle East, the percentage of American parents and those children who would be on board with the idea of a draft in America right now is infinitesimally small. Just a side tangent, but important to consider. There is a big picture here. What's the goal? Is the goal for us to just accept what we're told? Is the goal to just go with the flow? Do what you're told. Be on the team. Don't stand out. say yes, sir, to an asshole. Is that the goal? Do you think that's going to make you happy? I'm fond of saying on this podcast, sometimes I can sound pretty heated, and I can sound emotional. I can sound passionate. But when I stop, I'm not. Because I don't live this. I observe what I'm talking about today. I don't live it. I don't know how people live this way. Where's the happiness if you're told what to do? Where's the happiness if you're not tough? Where's the happiness if you're constantly stressed out? Where's the happiness if you're a fat ass? I mean, life is about finding the little moments each day where you feel, God, that was fun. That was a nice conversation. That was great sex. That was just an awesome workout. That was a fantastic walk. To go exploring. These are the things that make us happy. We don't get happy by listening to brutes and bullies tell us how to think, how to act. We're slaves at that moment. It might not seem like where I'm going today connects, but of course it connects. It all connects. Don't forget the goal. Because if you don't have the goal, you're fucked. But the goal is one thing. The goal is happiness. The goal is not to impress your neighbor. The goal is not to impress some social media loser. The goal is for you. But you got to stand up. You got to figure out a way to break outside of the system. And I got to tell you, that's one reason I love this trend following world that I exist in. Because so many of the traders, the trading mindset is exactly where I am today. It's about being objective. It's about being logical. We all have our different wants. We all have our different dislikes and tastes when it comes to the particular country we might like or the particular food we might like. But we need the adventure. We need the toughness. We don't want to be like these kids today that apparently are so devolved, they can't even use a pencil. They have forgotten how, or they never learned how to use a pencil. This is how fucked up it's become. So how do you break free? Well, there's always those classic first rules. Turn off the news. Start there. Do not pay attention. Maybe leave your home country, number 2. Number 3, get a new set of friends. Number 4, stop listening to other people tell you how to live your life. Go down that path. You're going to find that happiness. And if you're happy, damn, it's limited time on this planet. You do remember that, right? It's limited time. So if you're happy and you got limited time, well, damn, that is the best way to go through life. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.